Welcome to the Beau Show, the home of faith, family, and freedom. The Grammys give themselves the subtitle of Music's Biggest Night, as they are intended to celebrate the year's greatest music and give someone a prize for it. And there have been times in the past when great music has been celebrated. Growing up as a fledgling singer, songwriter, and piano player, I too coveted a Grammy at one time. But I remember visiting Graceland in my hometown of Memphis and seeing just 3 small Grammys in Elvis's entire awards area. And they were for gospel songs Elvis did, not Jailhouse Rock, Love Me Tender, or If I Can Dream. That was puzzling to me. Little did I know that years later I would win the 10 Outstanding Young Americans Award, which Elvis also won in 1970, which was actually his favorite award because it honored his sense of charity and goodwill. If you go to Graceland, you can still see that award in its own case, with the outfits that he and Priscilla wore for the ceremony. So even Elvis was overlooked for his musical genius. But nowadays, we heap dozens and dozens upon Beyonce for an album called Renaissance, which doesn't hold a candle to the actual Renaissance. But Beyonce's themes are carefully crafted in their titles, such as Formation. My point is, there came a time when a Grammy no longer became one of my lifelong goals, because I learned how the industry doles them out and how a person's story or identity might be preferred over their actual music. And even then, I began questioning whether the Grammys were about music at all. This year's were not, and I'll explain why. As we know, award shows have lost public interest. Their ratings get worse and worse every year. But rather than trying to make them more appealing to people, it's like creatives just double down on their decline. They have become what I call the cultural nadir. A nadir is the opposite of a zenith. It's the low point. Now, you may say, why would I even bother talking about the Grammys? Who cares? We know it's crap. Well, because number one, it's easy to dismiss them if you're conservative. But 2, no one is going to give you the analysis that I will provide today and explain why this is all very intentional and has to do with the fight for our kids and grandkids. It's a battle for a generation. So you can't just dismiss it and put your head in the sand and focus on a Chinese spy balloon. That spy balloon is the physical representation of what is going on at Crypto Arena in Los Angeles and on every person's phone inside of it. The more that those people can be indoctrinated, the better. Music has a way of moving people, of being transformative, and that's been known for eons. So how messages and themes get translated through music is important. The Grammys were hosted by Trevor Noah, a former host of Comedy Central's The Daily Show, which took a big ratings nosedive after Jon Stewart left. I think Noah did a respectable job as a host, but in the end, he's just part of a lame script. He isn't going to do anything that bucks the overall agenda as Dave Chappelle or Bill Burr might. They'd be way too unpredictable. So the show opened up with a performance by Bad Bunny, whose popularity is insane. He's a Puerto Rican success story, but musically speaking, it's just all centered around dance and groove rather than actual musical prowess. His vocals are entirely unimpressive. But early on in the broadcast, they featured a roundtable of fans that made the case for each artist nominated for Album of the Year. And they explained why their preferred artist should win. Bad Bunny's fan said that because he kisses his backup dancers and singers of both genders, that he is inclusive. So therefore, he should win. In turn, Brandi Carlile's fan echoed a similar story. Because the fan was LGBTQ+, she wanted to talk about how that representation mattered. No, not the music or the artistry, but just the fact that her sexual orientation made Carlile Grammy-worthy. Carlile's Grammy performance was introduced by her wife and kids, so as to again make a major statement about inclusiveness and identity expression. And this first hour was an in-your-face way of doing that, not to celebrate the talent or musicianship, but rather the identities of the performers. I saw 2 commercials in the first half hour that made me take notice. They were commercials for Pfizer, the COVID vaccine manufacturer. One utilized Pink, the very liberal singer, and a bevy of other virtue-signaling celebrities. As I later found out, the entire Grammy show was sponsored by Pfizer. Pfizer has a ton of money. And as I have told you before, it's the reason that none of the major networks covered Project Veritas's exposure of Dr. Jordan Walker, a Pfizer exec that spilled the beans that the pharma company has been doing directed evolution research on the virus so that it can create a vaccine for that and profit from your oblivion. No major network covered it because Pfizer pays them too much in advertisements. But it made sense to me why I saw so many Pfizer ads throughout the entire Grammy broadcast. But the real coup de grace was the performance of Sam Smith and Kim Petras with their song Unholy. I thought I knew what to expect, but it went, beyond. Take a look. This was straight up Satanism. A source close to Smith said, quote, "I guarantee there will be calls to CBS from outraged Christians," unquote. They flaunted this. Sam Smith is non-binary. His singing partner, Kim Petras, was one of the world's youngest transgenders, getting conversion surgery at age 16, 2 years prior to the required age of 18 in Germany. In the performance, you see lots of red, the blazing fire, Smith's devil horns, and Petras in a cage in a very BDSM style performance with dancers worshiping Smith in an idolic fashion. Just before Smith performed, CBS tweeted this: "We are ready to worship." On Monday night, CBS deleted that tweet. The network blessed this performance. When they accepted their Grammy for this satanic performance, Smith let Petras do all the talking so that she could say that she was the first transgender to win, to thunderous applause from the limbing audience. So there you have it. 2 non-conforming genders winning a Grammy to devil worship. Sounds about right. Madonna, whom I covered in a previous episode for her sacrilegious photo shoot in Vanity Fair Italia, introduced this duo and celebrated the unholiness of it. Take a look at her.
I'm here to give thanks to all the rebels out there forging a new path and taking the heat for all of it. You guys need to know, all you troublemakers out there, you need to know that your fearlessness does not go unnoticed. You are seen, you are heard, and most of all, you are appreciated.
She wears cross earrings as an affront to Christianity, but also bears the whip of the beast. It is unremarkable that this would happen. But what is more remarkable is the normalization of it. The more they do this, the more numb you become to it, where it only outrages those who would never watch it in the first place. And that tabooness, if you will, is exactly what they want, so that more young people cling to it in rebellion. Madonna was the ideal introduction to this sadistic performance. It's one generation of debauchery passing the torch to another. And immediately after the performance, yes, again, a reminder that this was all sponsored by Pfizer. This is not a conspiracy theory. This was right in front of your eyes. Pfizer doesn't care. But you should be aware of the ties between Big Pharma, CBS, and this performance. Now let's talk about Beyonce. She finally broke a record of winning the most Grammys of all time, which Trevor Noah said made her the GOAT, the awful acronym we hear for greatest of all time. When you compare Beyonce to Prince, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Elvis, the Beatles, I'm sorry, but she just doesn't measure up. The Grammys have become beholden to ideas and identities, not music. When she accepted her award, she weirdly thanked God for protecting her, although I'm not sure from what. But then in the next sentence, she thanked the queer community for creating the genre she won. That is yet another nod to sexual identity. She didn't thank any other fans, just the queer community.